All right. Well, Melanie, are you ready?
I'm ready, Brian. Looking forward to this.
All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Shop and Chivalry podcast. I'm here with, Melanie Allen, and it's your second time here on the show.
I know, and I'm excited and just as nervous as I was the first time.
I mean, I'm equally as nervous, and I know you didn't believe me then, but I still definitely am very nervous.
You made it so conversational. It doesn't seem like I'm being interviewed by someone. It's like I'm having a conversation with someone I know. So we do the same thing today. It'll be great.
Perfect. Well, thank you for that. And so Melanie, first of all, how has the campaign been?
Campaign's been great. A few little rough patches here and there with folks, but 96% fantastic. I have had the most exceptional opportunity and adventure, learning even more. I thought I knew this city. I thought I knew all the ditches and neighborhoods. I thought I knew problems, pluses, trees. I've learned more about this city. It's been fantastic.
Well, and it was great talking to you as well, because I got to experience the story that you told about 12 Oaks. Yeah. And I've since told that story to so many people, and I've walked the grounds. And, it's different walking those grounds with that story in the background, Thank
you for saying that, because it is a layer that is as important as the trees to that space. That's a sense of place at 12 Oaks is palpable.
Right,
and
right.
The healing when, as we know, there was an enslaved woman who owned that property. And then after she had established a home there with her family, her former owner, who had run out of all her resources, came to live there. And Johanna, the enslaved woman, took her in, and the woman lived with their family until she passed away. Yeah, that is a remarkable story of unity. We could learn from that.
Because, absolutely.
Unifying this city is something I'm looking forward to doing. But that 12 Oaks place, I'm so glad you explored it, that you also now appreciate it like I do and so many other people.
Right, and places like that really, really tell a story. And there's so many places in Ocean Springs that are like that. I mean, the Mary C as well. Just walking through downtown and seeing the Oaks, walking the beach and seeing the Oaks, and maybe seeing the Oaks that probably peered out and saw D'Iberville whenever he first landed. So.
Yeah, and when we think about trees along that front beach walkway, or all of that area, you're exactly right. The explorers saw those same trees. And when you think of that continuity and the rich sense of history here, it's an amazing thing. This is a very special place on this earth.
100%. Well, look, I do want to get into the questions here, because again, we've got plenty of questions here, and we've sourced them from the community. Before we begin, though, what I do want to say is that I guess I'll start here. This conversation that you and I are having, ideally, I wanted to have Mr. Holloway here too, so that we could have this conversation. And for the viewers out there, we did extend an invitation to Mr. Holloway. His schedule didn't permit it, so he had to decline the invitation. But nonetheless, we get to hear you out, and I'm excited to hear your ideas as well. What I will say is I'm very proud of your campaign for running such a positive campaign, focusing on key issues, right? And despite this sort of undue social media pressure that's been levied on the things that you do with this Gestapo-like force that seems to be criticizing you in ways that have nothing to do with your policies.
Yeah.
And so I commend you for staying strong, for being resolute in your pursuit for the city's highest office. So
I thank you for that. I don't read it. I don't read the stuff on social media.
Good for you.
I don't.
Yeah.
I didn't before. I've got other things to do.
Yeah.
But I'm not a victim. I'm not feeling abused in one way or the other. I put myself up for this office. When you put yourself up in the public view, you're going to have some detractors.
Right.
Whether they came with prejudice before I ran or not, it doesn't matter. So I'm not going to concentrate on them. I'm positive about Ocean Springs.
There you go.
And it's worth being positive about.
I agree.
And I chose to run this campaign in a very positive manner, because that's how I feel about this city. And when you run for office, and I, I'm in my 60s, I'm a mentor now in life, and I'm an example. I want to show people that you can run a campaign in a positive manner, win, lose, or draw. And we're working till the last vote.
Sure.
But you want to encourage people to get involved in public service and step up.
Yeah.
And to run a negative campaign just seems out of place in Ocean Springs.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you mentioned being older and being a mentor, and there's so many things that these sort of older population in Ocean Springs have to offer, but it doesn't seem like there's enough to sort of pay back the senior citizens in Ocean Springs in terms of like a dedicated, maybe not necessarily a facility, but more programs within Ocean Springs. So it was Melinda Boswell that asked, it seems there isn't enough support for senior citizens. What plans or ideas do you have to improve the city for senior citizens?
Well, I know Melinda, and she's a friend and a hero to me. She's taught junior high for many years.
She was my teacher.
Oh, okay. Well,
big red truck.
Melinda. When she was my neighbor on Ward, and when I first moved here, I realized you were with a rock star when you were downtown in Ocean Springs with Melinda, because she either taught you, she taught your mother, your sister, your cousin, and she's an imposing woman, and I'm very proud to have her as a friend. Melinda plays pickleball and tennis, so this may have come from that. I do think we need to address the needs of our senior citizens. Anytime we can promote health in our community and positive activities, that's a plus.
For sure.
We have focused, it seems to me, our Parks and Rec programs mostly on children, which is fine. Teenagers, sports,
sure.
That's absolutely great.
That's kind of a given, right?
Yeah, it is. But as we, I like to know the stats. And so we look at the demographics of this city.
Okay.
We need to look at the ages of the population that's coming in. And there's a significant senior presence here, and that's growing. And so to have activities that will keep the senior citizens healthy, involved, active, they can be combined with kids. You don't know. There are programs that have been utilized in different parts of this country that we could use as a template. I would look to projects, or I would look to support from like Blue Cross Blue Shield,
sure.
and the foundation money. There's national money for senior support, but I am all for it. And it needs to be not separate, it needs to be convenient. We have some limited senior citizen activities downtown, and those can be expanded. One of the things I'm all about is citizen involvement. And so one of the areas for committees that I would look to establish would be something for senior citizens. Look at adult recreation. And so I agree with Melinda. I think it's more than just a few watercolor or painting classes. Taekwondo, Tai Chi.
Yeah.
Maybe not the Taekwondo, maybe the Tai Chi.
Oh, no. I'm all about it. I'm all about it.
I do my 12-minute Tai Chi every morning and every night, and I find great value in that. But yes, we should involve our senior citizens in citizen planning. We should know what their needs are. I've had great conversations with the folks at Samaritan House and at the Villa. They're eager. That's a wealth of ability and expertise there, and we should be taking advantage of that. We should have programs for them too.
I agree, and I'm going to be a nerd here for a second, okay? So I've got this idea that I've tried to flesh out, and it's the belief in multidimensional travel, right? Bear with me. So
I'm beginning to get scared now, right?
So think about this. They say that your perspective is your view of the world, right? Okay. And so I can't experience your world.
Right.
And you have a greater depth of this world than I do. And the only way for you to share that world with me is for you to talk to me.
Yeah.
So I would love to see more of that, to where we can kind of create, again, as you say, being a mentor, those interwoven connective tissues that connect our older population with younger people within the city as well, so that they can share those worlds.
I like that a lot. And I'm someone, my grandparents raised me, so I had that different generation mix growing up.
And there's value in that.
There's great value. And then my boy lives in Europe, or actually in Africa right now, but when he lived in Europe, that's not unusual. They think we're weird over here where we all have individual houses.
Yeah, but there's multi-generational.
And what are the advantages of that? It's remarkable.
Yeah.
So I think we want to promote that. We love that.
Well, you mentioned also that you put community involvement as an important thing for you, right?
Yeah.
So getting into office, what are some community committees that you intend to start?
Let me think about that. I made a little list the other day.
Okay.
Because I think it's more than people would think. I think we can't fully appreciate what the citizens are willing to offer. There's a little fly.
There is. Is he bugging you?
Is that a pun? He's just sitting there taking all this in. No, I think certainly we need to reestablish some that were here before, which in previous administrations, economic development is easy. I say quality of life. We should have a resource, a committee to address that. Recreation with all ages represented. Beautification, which is more than just keep Ocean Springs beautiful. It would also involve care around the median, which is a hot subject.
It is right now, yeah.
Medians along 90. The marquee, our gateways, we should be looking at our presence there. Certainly tree protection committee. I think there's an opportunity for an entertainment district resource committee, because we're expanding that.
That's right. I saw that.
Entertainment district with Cantina Marina. And so we need citizen input and folks who are established in those businesses and working to manage those businesses. They need to be involved in that. I say natural capital also, which is the trees and the value. If you put a dollar value on the God-given resources and trees and natural capital we have in the city, that's a tremendous thing. Arts and culture, East Ocean Springs, Gateway, students, historic districts, promoting Ocean Springs.
We got a guest here, sorry.
And so all of those I don't see that in one general group. I see those as individual groups, always being a resource so that we tap into citizen input as much as possible.
I love every bit of that. And Amanda Pavlov did ask what your thoughts were on reinstating the tree committee. And I suppose that's something that you're looking into?
Yeah. So for background, I was appointed to the tree committee for 6 years, and I was elected chair for those years. The committee we had was imperfect. I think the city made maybe a bit of a clumsy effort to reorganize it. I have a real problem as a conservative fiscally in replacing volunteer hours with citizen employee hours. I think that the real Ocean Springs is a Tree City USA, and the tenets of that distinction, we're meeting the minimum definition of that in that citizens are contacted or involved in some way in that process, but not to the full extent. It's one thing to establish the minimum of a definition. I want the maximum definition. Our trees in Ocean Springs are iconic. They're valuable. They work for us. And to not protect them is a real problem for me. The complaints about tree committee were that they delayed permitting sometimes because the committee met every other week. In recent years, we met weekly when I was chair. And you're talking about 4 to 12 different site visits each time you go out. That it's a cumbersome process.
Yeah.
We had a great committee with tree committee when I first got on. We had a full-time arborist. But when the grant ran out for that, the city chose not to employ another arborist. I think we can look at other ways to establish that sort of excellence by maybe contracting or sharing an arborist with another city. But tree committee should be reestablished. I think we need to have a conversation amongst ourselves as citizens. What do we expect from that? What's the goal of having tree committee? When I got off, I kind of felt, Brian, like I was doing busy work when I went out, because 96% of the time when we had a tree that we denied after working with the owner, we denied taking it out. If they appealed to the alderman, it was approved. So the situation was set up that where it was conflict built into it. And I also think that we're asking too much of some of the tree specialists in town here, that they need to get a permit for trimming. We had an established rule that nobody took more than 20% off a tree. That's a National Arborist Society recommendation for the health of the tree. I think that we have great folks who do tree services here in Ocean Springs. They can peer review each other.
Sure. Let
the tree committee deal with big issues on trees. Let's recognize the value of the trees. Let's go back to Ethelyn Connor created a list of iconic heritage trees here years ago. They're established with the state. They're on record at the library here. Let's look at those trees that we say are not in play. Let's establish those as heritage trees or something and celebrate them.
Yeah.
So I think the city's work needs to be on protecting trees on public property. And then you set an example for your citizens. You educate them about why trees are valuable, why they're important, what they do for us. And And then if we have to have a trees, I know there's a very controversial situation on Front Beach with those trees.
Yeah.
I think if you exhaust all resources, the homeowner with their private property rights takes those trees out. I think the city may have a mechanism for asking that homeowner to reimburse the city for the value of those trees. There's a National Arborist Society valuation method for that.
Okay.
5 feet up, the circumference, the type of tree, evaluation. If the homeowner insists on taking them out, they reimburse the city. The city puts those funds in a restricted account, and they're used for care and maintenance of our iconic trees on public property.
I love that idea. And I'll say too, it seems that what you're advocating is not an expansion of government, but an expansion of what, of taking care of things that are important to the city, and putting that in the hands of citizens, which may look like, I guess, a committee that's maybe hosted by the city, but it's not the same thing. And as a conservative, as a Republican, I have a deep appreciation for that. Now, I'd be curious what the other mayoral candidate would think of that, because he's also a Republican, and I haven't heard much of him talk about taking care of the community in such a way that wouldn't expand government in some way.
I don't know what his thoughts are on that, and I don't really know him well enough to guess at that. But our trees are iconic.
Yeah.
They're important to this community. Caring for those, when I say natural capital, if we put a dollar value to all the trees and green plants, shrubs, all the things that make us more than just any average city, if we had to establish a dollar value for all those, that would equal natural capital. We'd be talking about tens of millions of dollars in the city. When you look at beaches,
I think you might be undervaluing it.
I probably could. But we need to think about that. Our money in the bank is one way that we have an asset. Preserving our assets as a conservative, preserving your assets that are natural capital is equally as important to me.
Sure.
And we face this. We have density issues now with the Unified Code and such.
Well, that's a good thing to transition to if you'd like to. So I'm curious what your thoughts are on the Unified Development Code, how it can be improved and improved rather, and what your plan is to go about improving that.
I'm not an expert, and I'm not an urban planner or city planner, but I have some knowledge about this. The value of the UDC code, or Unified Development Code, as I understand it, is that it incorporates all elements that require permitting by someone who wants to do something with property in this city. So they're overlapping, and rather than drainage being treated one way or development, site preparation in another way, that's okay. The Unified Code establishes all the city ordinances and rules and permitting process all together. I think there's great value in it. You look at the whole project at one glance that way. I think the point of that is to be more fair and broad and look at the whole project.
Okay.
I think there's real value in that. It allows density. Its value is in ordinances for mixed use development more than anything else. And we're a mixed use development city at this
especially
point.
downtown.
Especially. And Porter Avenue being I think is the oldest historic district in the city. The old Ocean Springs district runs from Porter all the way, from downtown all the way out. And that was always mixed use. It's not that some houses are now becoming commercial or did years ago. Some were originally established next to residences as mixed use development. So that was pretty much a forerunner there.
Sure.
I'm all for the UDC. It's not fully implemented. It's a long process. The city is still layering things, layering different levels of that as we go through the years. When it gets established, I think it will be fine. We need, as always, I think, Brian, people don't understand it. They see UDC, they don't know what that means, why we had to do it. Community education is really important to me. As mayor, communicating with our citizens as to why we're doing things is as important as the results.
Sure.
Rather than just an agenda or a summary of what we did at a meeting. I think the process of how you get there is equally as important.
I agree.
And I think the citizens want that. They want more transparency And that's part of the transparency. It's not just the end result. It's how did you come to that decision? What was the process that the board and aldermen used to come to that conclusion?
Yeah, it seems there's a lot of that, well, the ends will justify the means, and if you didn't know the means, just know they're justified based on the ends. But knowing the means to get there and having citizen input might help you avoid unintended consequences that would help you in the near and long term.
I hope so.
So that certainly makes sense. So Cynthia Blades Raven asks, what can the city do to improve walkability? There are numerous areas where the sidewalks just seem to end. The middle school is a good example.
Yeah, I hear that as I've talked to folks or listened to folks more than talked all over city, that walkability is a quality of life issue that's really important to a lot of folks. It's a major priority, especially in routes from neighborhoods to schools.
Sure.
We want our kids to be able to walk to school. We want our kids to be safe. We don't want them in the street. Safety means more walking. More walking means healthier citizens. More walking means fewer vehicles. And all of that's good. Fewer traffic problems, less parking. I spoke with Hank Zuber not long ago, and we were talking about appropriations, and I know there's over $1 million that's just been appropriated, dedicated for sidewalks in Ocean Springs. So well done to our legislative delegation for getting that done. There are some areas I hear where the sidewalk will go a certain way, and then you'll reach a low area, and then it comes back up on the other side. And that's a common complaint by moms and kids. But you know what? I don't know if you remember Andre Kaufman when he was director of public works here. He was a colorful fella. He'd been an alderman also. He was also extremely good at his job. I very much liked Andre. And occasionally I had to make him a devil's food chocolate cake in order to say thank you for something he worked on for a project.
You got to pull people's levers too.
Hey,
you know what I mean? You got to know how to do that.
Absolutely. Andre had come up with I'm going to give Andre credit. I'm not sure if it was him or one of his other team members who are also great, but he came up with a method along Government Street where the land was not sufficient for a real sidewalk. Well, they made a little boardwalk across. Lower, and it connects to the other side. Well, why not do that?
Yeah, I have heard, I think there's an area on Government Street where it kind of cuts off. And I know this area because I've ran there to run from my house down to Beverly Place. And there's an area probably about 100 yards or so where I've got to run in the road, and then get back on a sidewalk. I'm told there's a natural spring there, and that's why we can't do that. I've
heard someone comment on that, and I'd love to know that. I did not know that. I don't doubt it one bit because there are natural springs all over. There was one in my backyard on Ward.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. But walking and making this a walkable city,
it should still be a priority.
Fabulous. It's got to be a priority. And I don't mean just that way. I mean Halstead, Holcomb, all these Bechtel, all these streets. Everybody wants sidewalks.
I think Halstead was another
thing I hear. Traffic, parking, sidewalks are right on in there.
And which to me speaks to, we want to be down there. Like that's where we want to be. Help us be down there more.
It also means we want to be out. We love being out. And if you're a runner or you walk, or even if you're in a golf cart, the experience you have of being anywhere in Ocean Springs on that level rather than in your car with the windows turned up. You get to know your neighbors. You see the plants. You get to know the city.
And there's just something cool about going downtown on the beach in a golf cart.
Absolutely.
I've got to say.
I have one. I love it.
So speaking of golf carts, that was a question brought up too by Susan Yvette Deloach and Lucy Hetrick, and it had to do with increasing the enforcement of current speeding laws to include ordinances downtown and on Front Beach due to golf carts. Golf carts, people are having a good time and they're playing music really loud. What can be done about that?
Well, we need to work with the vendors. We need to have our police enforce the laws. Where I live down near the Inner Harbor, there's a dip in the road. So everybody who's coming in a golf cart, they get a pretty good clip coming down that hill. They are really excited about speeding past my house. We need to enforce the rules. I get scared about kids in the golf carts. I get scared about pets in the golf carts. I don't like the loud music or some of the profane music. Music, fine. I like my music. It's not all opera in my house, but the volume. We need to enforce those rules, and there are ways to do this. I also think that, in Key West, for example, if you rent a moped or you rent a golf cart down there, you have to watch a little video, and that little video kind of tells you a little bit about Key West, what the normal patterns where they suggest you go. It also reminds you to be a courteous visitor when you're there. What the rules are about noise and music, what the rules are about speed, So we make our guests recognize, be aware of the rules, and follow them.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you from a technical aspect, I don't know if this is the right answer, but you could install current limiters on the speakers that would prevent the noise from getting too loud.
See, that's a great segue, because I think that what I would like to discuss with our police chief, and he knows what the needs of his department are way more than I do, but I would like to ask him, what tech does he need to allow his officers to reserve their time for the needs of a person? There's a lot of tech things. There's traffic issues, sound, cameras. We're so into entertainment now, and we have these crowds. We need police downtown. We know that. We want beat police downtown. We want a presence at events. We want a presence when it's very populated. We want a presence on weekends, probably.
Yeah.
But to have tech as a resource, we had a few incidents. This is not a crime-laden city by any means. This is a great city, and if you've lived elsewhere, you really know what a great quality of life we have here, including safety.
Well, I think if you watch WLOX, you know that.
Yes, exactly. You're exactly right. Thank you for that. But we've had some incidences that were captured either from a Ring doorbell or something like that. The cameras established around the heavily populated areas or the entertainment areas was not a bad idea.
And that's not a new concept.
No.
Having gone to different cities around the globe, Amsterdam has cameras on every city, and Amsterdam's a very clean city, and there's a lot of history there, but the cameras kind of keep people in check.
Yeah, and they reserve the officers to do things that require judgment.
Yeah.
And our first responders, our police officers, are so vital. We have to do everything we can to support them. So
100% agree.
Absolutely, and they've gotten some raises. I think we need to look at what it takes to retain and recruit great folks who know Ocean Springs. The more someone is on a police force here, the longer they're going to know the nuances of the community that makes that officer more valuable completely. They need to be present. They need to be seen. It's part of saying you're welcome here, but everybody behave.
That's a big thing for me is having police, one, that can afford to live in the city that they police, but police that want to live here, that value the sort of quality of life, the way of life here as well, because they're going to seek to preserve that, which is what we want the police to help us do.
We want
obviously.
It to be part of our community.
Yeah.
I love the fact that they take their cars home.
Yes.
I like the presence of a police vehicle. There's one around the corner from me. Makes me feel safer.
Sure.
So anything we can do to help them.
Let me ask you this. So we're talking about kind of increasing presence, right? And so the question I have is at what cost? Because it's going to come at a cost. I mean, what do you have a plan to kind of offset that sort of additional cost? Or what are your thoughts on that?
When it comes to tech and talking about any kind of equipment for them, I'm a pretty successful grant writer. We can look for funds for those sorts of things.
I see.
As far as revenue for
let's say salaries
and such, I have to say, what is a higher priority? What is a higher priority than our first responders and our police? That would be my question. And as this city grows and we have more tax revenue, and I look to diversify the economy, we should have funds. Our priority needs to be quality of life.
Yeah.
That's built on protection and safety in this community. It has to be a top priority.
Yeah.
You can't put something less valuable to this community as a higher financial priority. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Well, sure. And of course, if you value businesses, then you need to value first responders, because the fire department is going to respond to help the business, and the police are going to help keep the business safe. So absolutely, I think the bedrock of any fiscal policy kind of starts with the understanding that you have to take care of your first responders, and it sounds like you've got that pretty well understood.
The great part about a community conversation, ongoing conversations with citizens, is to always know the pulse of the priorities of the community. This is a small town. We have standards that we don't want to compromise.
Yeah.
We want people to mind their own business. We want people to behave. We want people to feel invested in the community. All of those things come from valuing the chance that you live here.
Yeah.
And as we promote more community pride, I think a lot of these other things fall away. And we look for ways to work together.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree. While we're on the subject of safety, I'm curious, do you have a position on, how safe is Ocean Springs in terms of guns? And, what are your thoughts on protecting Second Amendment rights as mayor? Because it does seem that there's pressure at the federal level coming on down to maybe restrict some of the rights of, our Second Amendment gun owners.
I'd have a real problem with that. I'm a gun owner.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a pretty good shot. I have a Glock 40 that my home protection.
Yeah, it's a good choice.
Yeah, my son's father's shotgun is there. I read the other day that somebody developed an app that you can put on your iPhone. Someone breaks in your house, you turn that app up loud, sounds like a shotgun. They say most people will go out the door at the sound of a shotgun. But Second Amendment rights are extremely important. This is Mississippi. Guns are ingrained in our heritage and our culture. The state of Mississippi establishes state laws. The municipality of Ocean Springs is required to and wants to support those laws, and that's what I would oversee.
And as simple as that.
Simple as that.
Fair enough.
There's always room for education. I would look to the police to guide any community conversation about what our needs are about gun safety. Mm-hmm. I would look to them to be the experts.
So you said that you're a very good grant writer, and while we're talking on this kind of issue that exists at the federal level and the local level, how much experience do you have lobbying in, say, Washington or Jackson, in case you had to be a voice for this city?
I think it would overstate it if you said I'd ever been a lobbyist. I've been an advocate.
Sorry, yeah.
I have been an advocate in Jackson for arts issues down here. I've gotten a lot of money for projects down here from the Mississippi Arts Commission. So I have gone up there on specific days to advocate with our legislators and those from across the state on the value of arts, the value of the significant economic impact of our creative economy all over this state.
Oh, yeah.
So I've done that. I've gone up and lobbied to Mississippi Heritage Trust on their behalf, Mississippi Development Authority, for projects down here. So state level, that's pretty the extent of mine. And we've had good results from that. On a national level, I was a member of the Land Trust for the Mississippi Coastal Plain Board of Directors down here. I was selected to go through some leadership training by the National Land Trust Alliance. And in doing that, I also learned skills about advocating at Congress. So I have been up there to speak with Representative Palazzo's office. Mm-hmm. I was up there. I was there with Thad Cochran. That wonderful gentleman played Stars Fell on Alabama for me on a piano in his office.
Oh, really?
Last time I saw him, and I will treasure that memory. Charming gentleman.
Too cool.
Yeah, so I've gone up there to advocate in areas like that. I was selected by the Land Trust to speak to a subcommittee of Congress about 2.5 years ago, and the issue then was convincing Congress to leave the tax credits in on charitable donations because there was some concern about revitalizing or rechanging the tax code, and charitable contributions were going to be taken off after your adjusted gross income. We want them above that line.
Yeah.
And so that's the extent of what I've done there. I feel very comfortable putting a team together, being part of a team that could promote anything about Ocean Springs, lobbying for anything that we need down here. Mm-hmm. And there are a number of people here in town who would be eager to be on that team, and I look forward to developing that.
Yeah, 100%. Well, let me ask you this. How can we be more inclusive in Ocean Springs?
Define inclusive is a big word.
So, sure.
In what particular area of inclusiveness? Age, minority representation? Well,
we've talked about age, right? And one of the things we can talk about is kind of getting young people involved.
Yeah.
But also, I'm curious. Do you think there's work that can be done on minority populations within the city?
You know, I truly do. I'm delighted to see that we have Greg Gibson running in Ward 1.
Great guy,
to add some diversity. We've got several women, including me, in the race this time. There's nothing against the gentlemen who sit up there at the Board of Aldermen now, but they don't look like the entire community.
Yeah.
And it would be nice if our representation up there really looked like our community. And I'm delighted for that. We're a big quilt of people in this community. We're a little more cosmopolitan, I think, than other parts of this state because of Keesler, because of the casinos. So that allows us to be a little more progressive in some ways.
Yeah.
But inclusivity means everybody's welcome at the table. And I'm all for that.
Gotcha. One question I was asked, let's see, had it here. This is from Mark Becky, Massengale. How do you feel about allowing transgender athletes into women's sports on the local level?
That's a state issue. And
right.
Yeah, that's a state issue. And I think there's just been a ruling with the governor on that. So I would leave it to that. I would also encourage I think that's a school board issue. I'd encourage coaches and parents to be involved in talking to their legislators if they have any issue with that. But we're going to support the state laws.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's see here. Moving to the back here. No big deal.
Some questions for me. Wow. What happened to that conversation?
Well, we're going to get through the questions because I'm obligated to, but we're definitely going to have a conversation. Yeah.
I'm just teasing you. It's fine.
Okay.
We're being so serious, and we need to laugh a little.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely agree. So, so you mentioned the land trust.
It's a little jokester. Yeah, it's the land trust. I was very proud of serving on that.
So do you want to talk about the land trust? And someone had asked about, it was Jennifer Griggs Carr asked about the property owned with the Walker family and that sort of transaction of that property. Can you speak on that?
Yeah, I can speak on that. I'm not under any legal influence not to. I wasn't on the board at the time that decision was made. I got on the board 3 or 4 or 5 months after that. I was asked to join. Someone else had resigned, and I went on to fulfill that. But I didn't have anything to do with that. I would say if I had been on that board for that decision, I can tell you I would not have voted to buy that property.
Why is that? I'm told it was overvalued in a major way.
Well, I don't know about that because the land trust is required to use what's called a yellow book appraisal whenever they purchase property, which is a federal appraisal format. And you have to have someone capable of filling that out. I don't know how you would inflate that, but that's all I know as the rules for purchasing property. And that was always the procedure we followed.
Yeah.
The fact that property came to the land trust and saying, this is a great piece of property for you to purchase. It's my understanding of how it went. I wasn't there. So this is my opinion and from what I've read. And also, this is a great piece of property for the land trust to own. There's value in it from a natural conservation perception, and we have the money for you to buy it. The fact that anybody named Walker was one of the people who owned the property would have been a huge red flag for me. And I would have asked about the definition and requirements of any funding used to buy that property. If that had been done, I think the due diligence may have been a little lacking somewhere in there. I would have definitely been involved in due diligence and seeing that didn't go well with me.
Sure.
And we can see where it went.
Right.
On a personal note, I've got to say that I know Bill Walker and Sharon Walker. I thought Bill Walker was a very good man. I had dealings with him on other projects. Sharon Walker is probably one of the best academic grant writers I have ever read in my life. And to see them today makes me very sad.
Yeah. I have no doubt, especially if you've had a relationship.
And I was not on the board at that time, so I have no responsibility, but I can tell you I would not have voted to buy that property.
Interesting. Okay, well, what are your priorities getting into office? I mean, what are the first 3 to 5 things that you want to get done? Let's limit it, I guess, to maybe the first year. What are your key priorities there?
Well, my key priorities for this is to establish pride in this community again.
Okay.
To unify this community again.
That's a big one, right?
I'm not pointing any fingers at anybody, but we know there's been a lot of dissension. We've had lawsuits. We've had disputes. We've had angry words. And I think we can do better than that in communicating with each other. We need to be respectful in our conversations with each other. But as far as other than team building at City Hall and learning the non-tangible things of establishing a method that works successfully for this community and for the system, it's a business. The government is a business here. But the things I keep hearing about, again, are quality of life issues, the sidewalks, the traffic, parking issues. That's a huge issue. Addressing all over town with each alderman, what are the quality of life issues that you need in your ward to make your citizens happy? Infrastructure, it's not sexy, but if the water doesn't flow or it doesn't flow away, everything stops. Infrastructure is huge.
And everybody gets real unsexy.
Everybody gets very unsexy very quickly. Absolutely. But again, Hank Zuber said there's a significant amount of money coming this way with regard to infrastructure. We have to work in concert with the county. The county also has funding. Infrastructure is key to the growth of this community, whether it's growth or it's just quality of life for what we have. We don't want to grow just for the sake of growing and end up with long-term liabilities. So those are important things to me. Kickstarting an opportunity for a more diverse economy is a very big issue for me. We are very entertainment and hospitality driven in this community. I think that we have opportunities for adding some layers of tech, some light industry. I think these are important things for us to consider so that we fill in our gap. You put all your eggs in one basket economically, and then there's a downturn in the economy. If it's all retail, when inflation takes over or we have issues with money flow in this country, entertainment and disposable incomes go right out the door. So you have to have a diverse base of economy to support a robust financial health of this city. I think that's extremely important too.
Have you looked into different tech companies that could come here? I
haven't, but I look at other situations and opportunities have gone to other cities.
I see.
In Mississippi. I mean, even looking at Amazon going to Canton with 1,000 jobs. We talk about about the city. There's been some conversation about the city contracting a couple of years in a row with a concern to go sell the city and look for franchises and to promote the city and bring in people here.
That worked out so well, though.
I think that we have such a wealth of enthusiastic, excited, successful people here in Ocean Springs who would be delighted to be part of a team like that, to go out and tell the story, to have fun promoting the city, we don't need somebody else to tell us how to sell Ocean Springs. We love this place. We know how to do this. If you have that team together going out and promoting the community, businesses are going to come to you. We may never get a Trader Joe's. We may not meet the demographic, but we can sure be known as such a positive, vibrant, exciting city with a creative vibe, a rich sense of history, great school system, natural resources. We're near New Orleans. We're not that far from Atlanta. We're on the way to Florida. We have everything that would welcome great businesses here. Why we need someone else to tell that story, I do not know.
No, I don't get it either.
We need a professional platform, but there are communities all over this country who have branded themselves that make you just want to go there and visit. They've branded themselves. You can't wait to consider going to live there. Ocean Springs. Who could not sell Ocean Springs?
I'm telling you.
There's nowhere better.
Everybody that I know that has visited this place because they've been in the military, they know Ocean Springs, they love Ocean Springs. They say, if I was in Mississippi, I would live in Ocean Springs, which I get it, obviously. But
and I'm not from here. I moved here about 25 years ago. And so I have the perspective of someone who's lived elsewhere. I grew up in South Florida. I've watched condominiums crawl all the way up the coast of Florida. Most of the places where we lived as a family are now condominium sites. We're better than that. We love what we have. This is 1699. Who else has a city that's established at that time? And like you're talking about the trees that probably saw Iberville land. And you couple that with the natural resources, you couple that with the school system, you couple that with our location.
And just general coast living.
And the quality of life we get for what it costs here. We may complain about property taxes. We may complain about 2% sales tax, whatever. Live somewhere else. Go visit somewhere else and see what you get for your tax dollars.
Look, I've been to more than 50 countries and six continents, and I still don't feel the way I do about anywhere else that I do here. And it just feels like home. It's welcoming. And again, and I've said before, I'll beat this up again, but just how it feels like we're in this harmony with nature, all the buildings. I mean, even this piece of property that we're at, it's as if it's carved out of nature, and it's just, nature's like, fine, have this spot. We're going to grow around you, you know?
Yeah, like kudzu.
Yeah.
There are ample resources, natural resources that we love and that really add to our everyday life. Mm-hmm. I love to fly into Gulfport because when you fly in from anywhere and you get in, you've come from concrete, mm-hmm. and you get closer. The closer you get to Ocean Springs, the greener it gets.
Yeah.
And that just excites me every time.
Yeah. I love looking at the world from out there. I've got like 2,000 hours on an aircraft, flying around. Wow. And so one of my favorite things to do is when you depart and you look out of a window, it's as if you get to a point where the waves stop crashing, and the cars barely move. And it's as if you're leaving the world, in a snapshot of time to return later, and it's just, I love the concept of that. And
I like the way you said that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. But it's a real thing. And I've had the pleasure of flying over Ocean Springs, and it's a different perspective. I would say it's my second favorite place to fly over, unfortunately.
All right. What's your first?
Flying around the Mediterranean. Greece, Italy, just the rocky coast and the blue waters out there are just beautiful. And plus, I'm a huge fan of mythology, so I get that as well. To think that people would sail the Mediterranean and wage these wars, and in the name of polytheistic intentions and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I absolutely love it.
When I have flown over to see my boy, some of the planes have that camera in the belly of the plane. Yeah. And when you're coming in, like going over France, one time we were below clouds, and you could see the vineyards. And and then you go to another country and you see the change in topography, mm-hmm. Almost the cultural changes that come with that boundary. Yeah, it's very exciting. So seeing the Earth from that perspective is wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. When I flew into France, it's as if I can see the disdain that they have for people that don't speak French from the air.
All right, you got me on that one. That is really good.
Because they do not like you if you do not speak French. No, I mean, and I don't speak French, but I know what anger sounds like.
I'll just put it in a positive way, since that tends to be my way here. In Ocean Springs, you do not get treated the same way you do in Paris.
No, you don't.
When you show up as a visitor.
That's very true.
And I'm happy about that. All good love to Paris.
Yeah, France. There you go. Well, and because there's such a French influence down here as well, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of different flags fly over the city.
Oh, for sure.
We're influenced by every one of them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, Melanie, what else? I mean, so you've talked about your priorities. Has anything else changed from the last time we talked? Like, what are your opinions on say the parking garage? Are you still in support of a parking garage?
Yeah, I love that project because I'm all about any kind of public-private partnership like that. When you can leverage private dollars in that manner for something that's that big and a transformative project like that in this city. I'm eager, Brian, for us to have big conversations like that. The easy conversations, sitting down with people you already agree with. Okay, the value is sitting down with someone you don't agree with, mm-hmm. getting them to explain to you why they feel this way or not. Mm-hmm. And the parking garage has the opportunity to extend our business area to the east, which is wonderful. That's more growth for us. I don't like it being called a parking garage because I've talked to some of the developers, and it's a multi-use facility that's going to be absolutely beautiful with a parking garage attached to it.
Gotcha.
And I know the rounds of funding for this have come through this year. I think there were $2 million allocated to assist with that last year. The developers felt that wasn't sufficient for the parking garage. I think there was 6.2 million maybe
that sounds right.
allocated this year. So that should be enough to get us a good parking garage there. I have faith that that's going to be beautiful. They look to incorporate public art, They look to incorporate some green space. I think it's going to be a spectacular project for this community. And I also think there are other big things we could look at, and not just for parking. The statistics will tell you somebody they park somewhere, they're generally going to walk a quarter-mile radius of where they parked.
Okay.
Well, that parking garage is a little further east than some of our major I think we can talk to some of the property owners who have parking areas. We can do some contracting with them, maybe for weekend, evening event parking at their places. I think there are big other issues. I think we could look at moving City Hall. We are geographically, we are a city that's moved we go to 57. Mm-hmm. Everything's down here. Maybe we look at moving City Hall further to the east on some property that the city already owns. We did that with the police and fire department. That did well. I would want an active police substation downtown. Mm-hmm. But that would open up parking there on Dewey and Porter, where the city is now. And I also think that we could look at perhaps we need to have the conversation. These are things to have conversations about, not things to immediately do. Maybe Public Works moves to the east also. That would open up all that property on Pine. Public Works is kind of boxed in right there.
Yeah.
Those folks are vital to our community. So I think there are big things for us to look at in addition. We've talked about previously about the Mary C. I see some transformative projects going in the future for that. Mm-hmm. But I'm all about public-private partnerships. Pascagoula has a Pascagoula Redevelopment Authority where they get funding and then they work with property owners there to develop short-term rentals above a jewelry store or meetings places. It's a great way on a local level to have the community decide these are things we're missing that would add to what we offer in our community. And so leveraging that with public-private partnerships, I love that that whole thing, and I think the multi-use building with a parking garage on Porter on Government is going to be great.
I definitely agree. I'm sensing a common theme here is that you leverage your ability to work with teams, work with individuals, to form a consensus, to drive towards a unified common goal, right? And that's obviously really important. Now, in our form of government, it's especially important, right? Because the alderman, the legislative body, seems to carry the majority of the authority. So I'm curious, what can you do to make sure that you're working well with the alderman there? I mean, what skill sets do you have? I mean, are you worried about that? Working with the alderman?
No, I'm not worried about it at all because we all come into public service with the same perspective. I assume they're in this for the same reason I am. Mm-hmm. Those aldermen don't get paid enough for the hours they put in, and we all know that. And that's a part-time job. Mm-hmm. Being able to team build, to be able to establish priorities, to be able to work within the hierarchy of an organization like this municipality, I'm fine with that. There's no problem with that. Skills building that I bring is in strategic planning, in team building, in being able to set goals and objectives for an organization with a timeline. I'm a big believer in putting everything out there. You let the whole team know. You let them know how valuable they are. Yeah. You put good people in place. Let them do their job. Mm-hmm. The organizational chart of the city has the board established at the very top. The mayor works for the board. And my responsibility would be to make everyone who reports to me, all the department heads, everyone under, successful. So
then why do other candidates speak about the things that they're specifically going to do? It's as if I guess you can't really speak for them. Right.
It's hard to campaign about. People want to know your thought process. They want to know what you think you're going to bring to the table. Yeah. I worked, even though I had my own business and worked on my own, I also contracted out with other companies. The last company I contracted with was doing federally supported community health centers. I ended up working for several years with Coastal Family Health Center in Biloxi, and I did administrative work there. So I had somewhere between 80 and 120 employees under my direct supervision, and I was part of a team, a key strategic plan team within that organization. So that sort of hierarchy, I'm very familiar with it. I love it. I'm a team player. Anytime you can build a team, have the more people around the table, the more it makes me happy, because everybody's pulling towards that same goal.
Yeah, some people would say that having more people involved though would be an hindrance, because you got more people that you could maybe have a conflict with.
This is a city, and the city. The way I perceive how the aldermen do their job is they listen to the people in their wards. I would want to be part of that process and be physically present. I'm going to be out walking the different wards regularly. People would see me in their wards monthly. I've learned so much being out there as a candidate. I cannot imagine not retaining that same pattern as mayor. And so I would work with the alderman for that area, and with the alderman at large, whoever is in that position. And then we have to say together, we're all in this together. We're going to work together. You get the right people at the table. You establish who's responsible for what. You set a timeline. And then you make sure everybody does their job. Those are the basics of how you create and develop and achieve anything. And it's the same thing in team building within an organization. We have great people at City Hall. We have great department heads. There's no need to reestablish or recreate an executive committee. They're already there. You look at the organizational chart. Those department heads are your key staff, your executive committee. Meeting with them daily, weekly, knowing what their needs are, knowing what their priorities are, making sure we're speaking to each other, checking in. That's called management.
Sure.
I'm eager to do that.
Sure. Well, and I will say, there's no shortage of energy that you have. No. See, when I saw you at Quitsky's that one time, whenever Mr. Quitsky threw that kind of event with the aldermen and the mayors and whatnot, I was about to leave. It was like 7:45, and you had told me you'd been up since 6:30, and you were just as vibrant and energetic as ever. And I think I said something to the degree like, I don't understand how you are the way that you are, given like you've been active all day. I work an 8-hour shift and I want to crash, you know?
I am so enthusiastic about this adventure, and it has been one of the most thrilling things I've ever taken on in my life. I am energized by it, and nobody is going to outwork me as a candidate. Nobody will ever outwork me as mayor. I'm geared to be successful at what I take on, and that gives me great joy. To be able to contribute to this community in any way will thrill me greatly. This has been one of the happiest periods of my life. I love this place. This has been a healing place for me, just as those healing waters have healed people for generations.
Well, and to be fair,
that gives me energy and makes me want to do more.
Right, and the city has even recognized you for your contributions by giving you this current administration gave you the key to the city.
Yes,
you know?
I was thrilled to get it.
Yeah.
I had a very good working relationship with Shea Dobson, and I called him mayor in the office, and I've been respectful. I went in and introduced myself the second week he was in office, because I know, Brian, in a municipal situation, my grants are small, even though I have written grants that have been funded, I think collectively about $500,000 for this city altogether as a volunteer. If I don't have support from the city, even on a $5,000 grant for a piece of art or something, there's no value. I'm a team player. I want to work with the city. I went in and introduced myself to Mayor Dobson. We had a great relationship. I met with him at least monthly, probably through his entire term. And it's made me very sad that we don't have that relationship anymore.
Yeah. I'm inclined to agree. Well,
I salute him for stepping up.
Yeah.
And I applaud what he's been able to do. He's done some good things.
Well, let me ask you this. So at the end of let's say you get elected. Okay.
All right.
Mayor Allen. Okay.
Sir.
In 4 years, what does the city look like after 4 years?
Oh, I love that. The city looks that it is a planned entity. We are cleaner. We are full of pride for the opportunity to live here. We are all focused together on moving this city in the direction we want it to go. We've established community priorities. We are well on our way, or we have already redone our city comprehensive plan. Every person you've interviewed in politics since our first interview has talked about the city comprehensive plan.
Sure.
So I'm not going to take any more time on that. But the fact that ours is 11 years old is kind of silly.
Sure.
And that we don't need experts to come in here and build that plan. We need someone to help facilitate. Let our citizens do a mini charrette. Let's create that comprehensive plan. We're working under a comprehensive plan now. The fact that it does exist, anybody can find it. It's on the city's website. Mm-hmm. It was very well done. We will move forward on that one until we redo it. But we do need to maximize the potential of this city. Mm-hmm. There are conversations about annexation. There are conversations about the sports complex. There are conversations about development of East Ocean Springs. All of those are moving further along. The one thing I can tell you in 4 years is that we will have made progress on infrastructure. We will have made progress on sidewalks. We will have addressed parking issues. We will have addressed traffic issues. We would have addressed signage issues. I'm going to give a shout out to the current administration, because some of you other folks that have been interviewed don't realize some of the things that the city's already got going on. And I do want to compliment, if you don't mind. I've heard criticism about signage. Well, I was on a wayfinding committee. The mayor asked me to serve on that last year. And that group together has worked under facilitation by Christian Prius.
Okay.
And Christian Prius took us through the journey of deciding what's the best way, if you're a stranger coming in here, how to find parking, how to find City Hall, how to know directionally. And not just to have those, but to have them branded so that they're in concert with the city. Yeah. So the same colors, same typefaces, those will be cropping up. That committee completed their work, and it was a good opportunity to be part of that. And you're going to see changes around town because of that. The city also, I believe Carolyn Martin got some funds, their grant funds, for a traffic and parking study, and that's going on right now. And that will be crucial to understanding what's the best way for us to go. There's conversations about one way, there's conversation on government, and but you always have to remember anytime you throw a rock in water, it makes a ripple, other people are affected. If we move traffic one way, we got to get them back. So
right.
Are they going to go right down Bowen and involve a residential neighborhood that's already got a narrow street? No. Yeah. So that study's already going on, and when we get the benefit of that, we can make some informed decisions. So I do want to give a shout out for some of these things are being addressed. The city also got $200,000 that will be used to explore alternatives for that intersection where you come off the bridge down to Porter, which is a big project for me, because our Historic Ocean Springs Association is working in trying to get community engagement in that area. So the citizens in that area will talk about how do we blend the old fabric with the new fabric that we know is coming, that creative vibe creeping on down Porter. Yeah. But Carolyn was able to get $200,000 to address issues that can actually be some construction. That's an awkward turn when you come off of that.
It really is.
So that will be addressed. But in 4 years, you're going to see us even a brighter version of what we are now, with quality of life addressed. Fairness of issues that protect our residents as well as our visitors. We want our visitors to be happy, but we don't want our citizens to have their quality of life changed because of music or that's whatever.
Loud golf carts.
But I have to say, I was talking to folks at the Villa recently, and they were very complimentary about the fact that in the last month or two, the sound issues with loud music past the time at night is not existent anymore. They're very happy about that. So again, a compliment to the city.
Yeah. Okay, so after 4 years then, we see the vision, we see what it looks like. Yeah. What does it feel like? What does it feel like to be in Ocean Springs in 4 years?
It feels united. We're not wasting energy arguing with each other. We're pulling towards things. We're happier. We have civic pride. We feel energized about our creative vibe that we have here. We have things going on at the Mary C that are exciting and unique. We have a situation where we all feel community over competition, where we feel a real urge to make, there's our little friend again, sorry about that. You're good. Where we have an urge to all be part. We're all stakeholders in Ocean Springs.
I agree.
This is a business. It's if we are stockholders. And it's that same sort of thing, but we also invest our dreams. We invest our sweat equity. We start businesses. We dream big. We're willing to fail. We take risks here. And we need to be a city where our kids want to come back.
Yeah.
And that gives me great joy. So I would like to say that. And in 4 years, I'd like to see my boy back here. He's been abroad too long.
Yeah.
I want him to come back here.
Well,
So
come on back home.
That's very personal to me. Lee's a school teacher. He's the head of an English department at the American school in Tangier, Morocco.
Wow.
Did that after his Peace Corps obligation. And I'm very proud of that. But Lee makes probably a little more over twice what he would make as a school teacher here.
Oh, wow.
So dreaming that he's going to come back here and teach school, I would like that. I can't do anything about what school teachers make other than to advocate that I think they are all American heroes and grossly underpaid, but that's a different pot of money.
Right.
What I can do to support that is to have a vibrant economy in Ocean Springs so that our millage is supporting that stellar school system. And and it's staffed by a crop of teachers who are just as exciting as Melinda Boswell was when you were in junior high.
Yeah, well,
that was a nice segue.
Yeah, no, I'm sure she hasn't skipped a beat either. I'm sure she's just as energetic and just as passionate.
That I have energy, I can't keep it with Melinda. So.
Yeah, I definitely don't doubt that. What are your thoughts on Front Beach?
Which parts of Front Beach? Because Front Beach is
Sure.
broad issues there.
Right. Well, I guess the construction that's going on there with the swales. Do you have an opinion on that?
Yeah, I don't like them, but I have a great relationship with Brian Fulton, the county administrator. I'm very fond of Troy Ross. I think he does a great job as a supervisor for our area on the county team. I wish that these folks had been responsive when many of us, including me, asked them, please show us your engineering data that tells us why you support this design so much, when so many of us don't see how it's going to be beneficial.
Right.
At $1.9 million in extra concrete, well, it's actually 1.2, I think the other's engineering, but that's a lot of money for concrete.
I know.
It's just so... It just seems so conflicting with the beauty of that beach. I know from my land trust experience about living shorelines, I know other ways to do that. I have to have faith in the supervisors that they know what they're doing. I just wish they had taken the time to have a community meeting. We could have put it at the community center. They could put all their graphics up. We could all see and be convinced as a community, oh, we were wrong. These are going to work. Yeah. What many of us see, and I've talked to everybody about this. I've talked to Dr. Mark LaSalle, who's a very good friend of mine. Julia Weaver, she's an environmental specialist. We all respect her.
She was a former alderman too, right?
She was. She was alderman at large before Troy Ross and before Bobby. But Front Beach is too important for us to accept an easy concrete over. I think the thing that is ingrained, Brian, that all of us have a problem with, two things really. One, we've watched the prototypes now that were put down there of those swales. Yeah. We watched them for over probably almost a year and a half of storms. They didn't work well. They clogged up. I think part of this is functional, but part of this, you don't want to make extra maintenance for the people in the county. They seem to be designed to make extra maintenance for these folks. I don't know how they're going to work. Yeah. I would love to be wrong. The other part of this is many of us, and I'm just going to step right out there and say this, the flaw in that sidewalk design was original flaw. Something about concrete on sand is not going to work. It was in the Bible. It's still true. Right. I still believe that the sidewalk should have been attached to the seawall. We wouldn't be having these issues. There was a way for plantings as well, but I can't go back and undo that. Right. The problem I have now is that I think we all recognize that flaw, and now we're going to spend $1.9 million to seal that flaw, and it's fate. You know, there's a lot of us who would love to see the flawed areas just pulled out, put them on a barge, go make us a nice fishing reef. I love to fly fish, so I'd like to be fine with me, but It feels flawed. And I think a lot of folks recognize that it hasn't worked. The fix doesn't seem to work. And the fact that we are not being, I think the county could be a little more responsive to the citizens' needs. They want to know why this seems to be the fix.
Well, it sounds like you're the right person to do that because you've been involved in coastal water preservation for many years. You've been involved in nonprofits. You've got plenty of community ties, both at the municipal and county level. And it seems like being able to employ you and put you to work for the city, and so you can leverage those connections, maybe, who knows, might have yielded a different response.
I would hope so. I would hope that I would have had the conversation. I would hope to have been involved from the very beginning. We have a seat. We can go to the Jackson County meetings. We're all in this together. Mm-hmm. Ocean Springs is part of Jackson County. We should be teamed on everything we do. Yeah. And I think I could have persuaded them. I want to believe I could have persuaded them to have a common conversation before the contract went out or after. But to please, I think it's my obligation to respond to the citizens' need for more information. Yeah. I'd certainly have done that. But I also have had the opportunity through the Land Trust Alliance nationally to go through leadership training, to understand best watershed management practices, to understand about living shorelines, to understand about mitigation. So I bring that expertise to the job as well.
Okay. Well, Melanie, what else would you like to talk about?
I don't know. Is there anything else to talk about?
Well, I mean, look, I'll say this. You know, when I look at you as a candidate, and again, on balance, I mean, I don't have a vote in the election, and I've interviewed just about everybody, and you know, when I look at you, if you're looking for somebody who has had community involvement, you've got a bullet for that. Okay. If you're looking for somebody who's been involved and has experience and a vigor for preserving the arts, you've got a bullet for that. If you're looking for somebody who wants to preserve the coastlines and our coastal waters and the environment, you've got a bullet for that. If you want somebody that's been a business owner and that has a knack for, you know, running a business and wants to preserve business and understands the value of business at Ocean Springs, you've got a bullet for that. You seem to be this amalgam of a mayor that can hit all the different passions that people have for this city. And, you know, this is just me speaking, but it's hard for me to find somebody else that fits those blocks.
I appreciate that.
That's just me speaking.
That's a decision voters will each have to make. Right. I don't know Mr. Holloway very well. I met him. Mm-hmm. A mutual friend of ours said they thought they ought to put the two of us together and knew he was thinking of running. It was the first time I'd met him. Very nice gentleman. Yeah. He's got expertise in property development and real estate. And I'm sure a case could be made for him as well. But I'm eager to take on this role. I think it's a crucial time for this city. We're not the city we used to be. We're at a crossroads. We're not the city we used to be, not the city we're going to become. And we need someone with a calm voice, an adult in the room maybe, who has team building skills, planning skills, my ability to put people in the same room together, whether we agree or disagree. I think that I've established that in all the organizations I've been a part of. I've been doing the work for 25 years. I've been here in Ocean Springs as a volunteer. I have been blessed where I've been able to have that time. And I occasionally still do some ghostwriting for some old clients, but my time has been invested in this city. And it's been a great thing. I could have done crossword puzzles. I could have been on vacation more. I could have.
No, you couldn't. You couldn't stay away from it. Look, you know.
It's not in me. My grandfather, who raised me, started working. He came from a very poor family in Massachusetts, and he started working when he was 8. And he tried to start retiring before the time I was born. You could never stay retired. No. And I think I'm the same person. Mm-hmm. There's an energy, and I have had such a life of gratitude. This will sound corny, and some people may think I'm just saying this, but I am built on gratitude. I know how blessed I've been in this life, and it's not just a need, it's a real desire to return to this earth what I've been given. And I think God put me in Ocean Springs for a reason. This was not something I expected to do. I did not ever expect to run for public office as mayor. I had one try at it years ago. I did a bad job. The city selected Bobby Cox, and he was a great choice at the time. But I'm 8 or 9 years past that of experience and involvement in this city. And I love this city enough to come out of my precious, quiet, dignified life and go into politics and put myself on the line. I've spent the last 6 or 7 months. It was a hard decision to make this this run. You put yourself out there. You're vulnerable. I stuttered as a kid, And so public speaking, people will say to me, oh, it's so easy for you. It is never easy for me.
You give me hope because I stutter as well. And it's a constant, there's times where I'll go to introduce myself and I can't get my own name out.
Yeah.
And so they look at me awkward and I have to like take a deep breath and then say my name. And it's so frustrating. So you give me hope. Thank you.
There's nothing wrong with you. I was going to say that all the conversations everybody's had with you, you don't sell yourself enough. You're a pro at this. This may be a hobby and you may be an instructor at air traffic control, but this is a passion with you. And I think you feed off the people you interview. And I think you add another layer of knowledge every time you meet one. You look so eager every time we sit down to talk. And it's not just questions. You're looking for information and understanding. And I like that. It makes it easy to have a conversation with you.
Well, I'm passionate about passion, and people with passion talk differently. And I dive into my passions, and when I can get people to talk about their passions, I dive into that too with them. Yeah. So it's been an absolute blast. I'll say one more thing. So we've talked about not necessarily scripture, but we've made religious reference once or twice. And so I want to tell you about my favorite passage. Sure. and it's from the book of Matthew, and it's you judge a tree by the fruit that it bears. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important way to maybe kind of draw this to an end, although I do have one question. Sure. After this. But when I look at you and the fruit that you bear through your work, I hope that people can judge you based on that. Yeah. Based on your concrete ideas and your passions for this city. I think
they will. I think this is a fair community. My grandmother always, she would remind me all through growing up, she had this great saying that life and tennis are much alike. The person who serves well seldom loses. And I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And I've remembered it all these years.
So final question for you.
Sure.
This is from Patrick Mortensen. If you were to choose a one-topping pizza, which is it? And then there's a follow-up. So if you were to pick a one-topping pizza, what is it? That's
this one question I was not expecting today. All right, so to clarify, because I like to define terms.
Okay. Yeah. Let's definitely do that.
Is cheese implied on a pizza?
Well, so if you were to say cheese, then basically you want an extra cheese pizza.
Well, there is no pizza without cheese.
No, that's true.
I could do without meat in life and cheeses. I go to Winn-Dixie and I might have $25 worth of meat and $45 worth of cheeses. Yeah. Those are my priorities. So cheese is going to be on that pizza.
Sure. Okay. So let's say that's implied.
One thing, I'm going to go with black olives.
Oh. Okay. Follow-up question. Hold on. Follow-up question. Does pineapple belong on a pizza? For some people, but not for me. Oh, really?
No, I will say where pineapple does belong, which I just realized recently eating downtown, I believe it was Mosaic, who's really beefed up their menu, really excellent. Mahi-mahi fish tacos with pineapple.
Go on.
Honey. So good.
Well, I'll tell you, my two toppings, and people are not going to like this. If I splurge, I'll get more, but generally my go-to is a 2-topping pizza with black olives and pineapple.
We were meant to be.
Melanie, it's been a blast talking to you. I've had a blast, and regardless of how this works out, I hope that we can maybe talk again, because I'm sure you're going to continue to be involved with things.
Absolutely.
And anything that we can bring light to platform in any way, please always use me as a resource. I'm happy to do that.
And when I talk about these citizen committees,
hey now.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Okay, that's a deal. Thank you, Brian. This has been great fun. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No problem. I had a blast. All right, everybody. We'll see you. That's it.